there is so much book versus movie because this whole little section of the movie is completely different from this part of the book. All right.
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
Let's see. Oh, the fact that the Dursleys, okay, I actually kind of like the movie version of what happened to Vernon. So in the book, they're making all this noise, but Vernon does not wake up. And until finally Hedwig screeches and he wakes up. And of course, the twins had already picked the lock, so he doesn't have to unlock it. So he just runs in, right? And all of a sudden he sees Harry coming, starting to climb back into the car. And they're in a little tug of war at the window. And in the movie, Vernon literally falls out of the window and onto some bushes, okay? Onto some bushes in their backyard. That's so much better than the three of them just standing out the window, staring at them dumbstruck.
As the car flies away.
I like the karma. I really wanted that karmic. You just fell out the window of the window that you had bars installed on, right? Because that's just how vindictive you are. And you know what? You deserve to fall out the window, Dursley.
And then Aunt Petunia and Dudley are the only two in the window, and they're horrified and looking down because Uncle Vernon has fallen out of the window and down into the bushes.
Exactly. So, I thought that was way better than the three of them just staring out the window.
And that's just the big detail on that part of it. The smaller details are in the book, he wakes up and Ron's looking at him through the window. And when he looks out, he sees the flying car parked in midair. In the movie, there's bright lights coming toward the house. And Ron's Harry's like, what is that? And as it gets closer, he's like, it's a car. And then as it pulls up, he's like, you guys, what are you doing here? So that's a little bit different. And then in the movie, Harry's stuff is not locked down in the cupboard. So they don't come in the house and lockpick and go down and get the stuff or any of that. Right. They just
has
the window.
To gather his stuff.
Right, gather his stuff and all that. And in the movie, they have him gather all his stuff first, and then they pull the window bars off. Which does wake up the Dursleys. And then it takes them a minute. Right. And it takes them a minute to get in because since they didn't pick the lock, the door is still locked. So Vernon comes to the door with the keys, comes in, and then same thing, he catches them going out the window, and then that part happens.
Yep.
And then once they get in the car, so all the conversation that they had in the car in the book does not happen in the car in the movie. When they get in the car,
say, happy birthday, Harry, and that's it. Right?
Ron says, by the way, happy birthday, Harry. He doesn't tell the Dursleys to have a nice summer, any of that. They get him in the car, they drive off. Ron says, by the way, happy birthday, Harry. And then they arrive landing at the Burrow. Also, when they land at the Burrow, it's bright daylight. It's not the sun coming up and the sky is pink.
Yeah, it's not sunrise.
That's not what's happening.
So Mrs. Weasley does not yell at them scattering chickens and all that stuff. Instead, they actually get into the house. But I mean, obviously for cinematography purposes, the visual aspect of Harry encountering the house for the first time and just watching everything happen, the self-washing pots and pans in the
when they come in, the dishes are washing themselves. It's one of the first things he notices.
The sweater is knitting itself, which is signature Mrs. Weasley sweaters, right? Then you've got the clock right? Because the clock, that's a huge difference in the book and the movie. In the book and the movie, it doesn't show, in the book, it doesn't show mortal peril, right?
It also doesn't tell you about the hands.
Yeah, so there are spoon hands, okay? And each spoon has a picture of the kids. So there are, there's Arthur and Molly and Bill and Charlie and Percy and the twins and Ron and Ginny. So there are 9 hands on the clock, and it just so happens that Fred and George and Ron's hands are on mortal peril, which is hilarious. And then they clip. Isn't it mortal peril? I think so.
I can't remember. I don't know if I looked that close. Because they don't talk about it in the book, but in the movie. Right. And so they click to at home, and then everybody's at home except for the one spoon, Arthur's, that's pointing it at work.
At work, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Which I thought was really cool.
Down the stairs screaming.
Yes. Mom comes down the stairs screaming, and she is livid, obviously.
There's no deadly whisper, though. Huh? Because the book says she started out with a deadly whisper after she stomped across the yard. She does not come down the stairs with a deadly whisper. She comes downstairs shrieking.
Yeah. She has the same monologue, does she not?
A lot of it is exactly the same. No, not car, gone. Yeah, all of that. She's still screaming all of that. But in the book, when she first walks up, and she said, because I remember it, when she comes down the stairs, she's like, where have you been? But in the book, that's literally how she says it as she comes down the stairs and puts her hands on her hips. But in the book, it says that she comes stomping across the yard, scattering chickens, and that she says, where have you been? But she says it in a deadly whisper.
Yeah, and don't forget, the boys were sneaking biscuits off the table, and they're like, do you think it'd be all right if we eat these? And then they're like, yeah, Mom will never notice. And so they're literally eating, and Ron hides his biscuit behind his back because
Mom comes down the stairs shrieking.
Yeah, exactly. And Ron says, but they were starving him, Mom. There were bars on his window. And Molly's like, well, you best hope I don't put bars on your window, Ronald Weasley. And that's not in the book at all. But
that's nowhere near in the book. There's also no denoming of the garden in the movie.
I know.
They don't go back outside. And then when Jenny comes in, she doesn't realize Harry's there. So they're all sitting at the table. And I can't remember if Arthur was there before or after Jenny comes in. But she comes in and she's like, hey, Mom, have you seen my jumper? And Mom is like, it was on the cat, dear. And then she sees Harry. Her eyes get all big and she turns around and runs out. And that's when Ron's like, Ginny, my sister, she's been talking about you all summer. And they're all sitting at the table eating.
Yep. And then we do not get any of Ron's bedroom.
No, because they're there at the table. And actually what's funny is when Arthur does come in and sit down and they're all, excited to see him. Oh, hey, Dad, whatever. And the conversation even between him and Molly about the car is different. Because Molly says it kind of conversationally, like she knows about the flying car in the movie. Yeah. And she's like...
And we don't discuss anything about the law or anything like that.
No, none of that. She just says, your boys drove that car to Surrey and back last night. And he's like, you did? And she kind of smacks him. And he's like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, you guys, or whatever. And Ron and Harry kind of give each other a look and giggle. Yeah. And so... a lot of the other conversation that happened in the car happens at the table where Ron's like, yeah, my dad works, at the Ministry of Magic, at the Misty Smuggle Office, blah, 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 whatever. And they don't talk about Lucius and Draco and the house elf or any of that.
No, they don't go into that at all.
And then this section of the movie, before it moves into something else that becomes the next part of the movie, Arthur Weasley turns to Harry and says, well, you know about muggle things, right? And Harry's like, well, yeah, I guess so. And Arthur says, so what exactly is the function of a rubber duck? Harry's like, oh, and that's kind of the last part of the movie for this, because what starts happening next is later
the next chapter. The next chapter. Gotta love it.
Oh my god, I love it so much.
How many chapters do you think? I feel like we should start counting because we are currently in book 2, so it's easy to maybe go back and start a running count. How many chapters do you think start with like a new surprise character or a new, like a shocking something?
I feel like she tries to end the chapters with a question so that you'll keep reading to see what's happening. She kind of cliffhangers the chapters a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, every time it's like something new.
Yeah, that's true. It's never boring.
No, never.
Okay,